The champagne flute shattered against the marble floor, and Elena Vasile, 29 years old and already exhausted by other people's pity, watched Adrian Popescu's new wife flinch at the sound. "So clumsy of me," Elena said, her voice steady despite the heat crawling up her neck. She stepped back from the spreading puddle of expensive champagne. Around them, the charity gala continued its glittering dance. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across the grand ballroom. "I'll have someone clean that up." Adrian's smile was sharp. He'd perfected that smile during their 3 years together. Now he aimed it at her like a weapon. "Still jumpy, Elena? I thought you'd have steadied your nerves by now." His wife, Christina, barely 23, pressed closer to his side. Her diamond engagement ring caught the light. It was larger than the one Adrian had given Elena. Elena had noticed. Everyone had noticed. "My nerves are fine," Elena said. She met his dark eyes without blinking. Her own dark amber gaze had stared down gallery owners and art critics. One mediocre ex-boyfriend shouldn't rattle her. "I'm simply tired. The gala has been more successful than anticipated." "Has it?" Adrian glanced around the ballroom with theatrical interest. "I haven't seen many major donors at your table. Lord Pemberton went to the Tate's event instead, didn't he?" The words hit exactly where he'd aimed them. Elena's gallery had been courting Lord Pemberton for 6 months. Losing him to the Tate was a blow she couldn't afford. Not when she'd spent everything, her savings, her reputation, her pride, to prove she could succeed alone. "Lord Pemberton and I have an understanding," Elena said. The lie tasted bitter. "His donation is simply delayed." "Of course." Adrian's tone dripped false sympathy. "I'm sure it has nothing to do with your situation. Being single at your age. People talk, you know. They wonder why you are always alone." Christina giggled. The sound was light and cruel. "Adrian, don't be mean." "I'm not being mean. I'm being honest." Adrian leaned closer. Elena caught the scent of his cologne, the same brand he'd worn when they were together. "You're almost 30, Elena. No prospects, no family. You spend every night in that gallery, surrounded by dusty paintings and dead artists. It's sad." Elena's jaw tightened. The thin scar along her left jawline, a reminder of the car accident that had killed her parents, began to ache. It always did when she was angry. "My personal life is none of your concern." "It becomes my concern when you're representing our industry," Adrian said. "The art world is watching you. They're wondering if you can handle the pressure. If you're stable enough to manage a gallery alone." The words struck deep. Elena had heard the whispers. She'd seen the doubt in investors' eyes. A young woman, divorced, running a gallery in London's competitive art scene. Too risky, too emotional, too likely to fail. "I've managed perfectly well," Elena said. Her voice stayed level through sheer force of will. Pride was her armor. It always had been. "Better than well. My last exhibition sold out. Small artists, small sales." Adrian shrugged. "Nothing like the names you used to handle at Sotheby's before you quit to chase this little dream." A waiter appeared with a towel for the spilled champagne. Elena stepped aside, grateful for the interruption. She needed space. She needed air. She needed Adrian to disappear back into whatever hole he'd crawled from. "Excuse me," as she said, "I should check on my guests." She turned away before Adrian could respond. Her heels clicked against the marble floor as she crossed the ballroom. She kept her spine straight and her expression calm. No one could see the humiliation burning in her chest. No one could know how close she was to losing everything. The gallery was drowning in debt. Her investors were getting nervous. And now Adrian was spreading poison about her stability, her competence, her worth. She reached the tall windows overlooking the Thames. The river stretched dark and endless below. London's lights reflected on the water like scattered diamonds. "Miss Vasile," the voice came from behind her, deep, accented, unfamiliar. Elena turned. A man stood 3 feet away, tall, imposing, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly gallery rent. His silver-gray eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. His black hair was precisely styled. His pale skin seemed to glow in the chandelier light. "I don't believe we've met," Elena said. "No." His smile revealed teeth that were just slightly too sharp. "But I know who you are, and I have a proposition that will solve all your problems. Elena's instinct screamed warning. Something about this man felt wrong, dangerous, impossible. I'm not interested in propositions from strangers, she said, not even from an immortal who's been alive for 847 years. His smile widened. Not even from someone who has documented proof of existence spanning centuries? Someone who can make your gallery the most successful in Europe? Elena stared at him. The words made no sense. Immortal, 800 years, documented existence. That's impossible, she whispered. Most impossible things are. He extended his hand. His fingers were long and pale, marked with thin white scars. My name is Lord Constantin Drăculești, and I'm about to change your life forever. Elena's hands shook as she unlocked the door to her Kensington townhouse. The street was quiet at this hour. Only the distant hum of traffic disturbed the night. She stepped inside and flicked on the lights. Her gallery occupied the ground floor. The space smelled of fresh paint and varnish. Tomorrow she had 3 pieces arriving from Prague. If she still had a gallery tomorrow, Adrian's words echoed in her mind. Unstable, desperate, failing. She kicked off her heels and walked barefoot across the polished concrete floor. Her reflection stared back from the darkened windows. A woman in a designer dress who looked successful, who looked like she had everything under control. The reflection was a lie. Miss Vasile, Elena spun around, her heart hammered against her ribs. A man stood in the doorway to her office. He was tall, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly gallery rent. His silver-gray eyes caught the gallery lights. They seemed to glow. How did you get in here? Elena's voice came out steady. Years of dealing with difficult clients had taught her to hide fear. The door was unlocked. He moved forward with strange grace, like a dancer or a predator. I am Lord Constantin Drăculești. I believe you need my assistance. Elena's fingers found her phone in her clutch. I'm calling the police. You signed a contract 6 months ago. Constantin pulled a leather folder from inside his jacket. Do you remember? 6 months ago, when the gallery had been drowning in debt, when every bank had refused her loans, when a man in an expensive suit had appeared with an offer that seemed too good to be true. That was just paperwork, Elena said. Her thumb hovered over the emergency call button. A business loan. Read it again. Constantine opened the folder. He set it on the white marble reception desk. The terms were quite specific. Elena approached slowly. She kept distance between them. The document inside looked old. The paper had a strange texture, like parchment, but that was impossible. She'd signed digital documents, clean modern contracts with clear repayment terms. This isn't what I signed. Elena stared at the elaborate script. Latin phrases wound between English text. Red ink marked certain passages. It looked like blood. It's exactly what you signed. Constantine's voice was soft, almost gentle. You agreed to become my wife in exchange for financial security. The binding was completed the moment you wrote your name. That's insane, Elena backed away. I would never agree to marry a stranger. You were desperate. Constantine tilted his head. Your gallery was about to be seized. Your father's legacy would have been sold to pay your debts. I offered you a solution. The words hit like a physical blow. Her father had died 3 years ago. This gallery was all she had left of him. The thought of losing it had kept her awake for months. Even if I sign something crazy, it's not legally binding. Elena forced confidence into her voice. You can't just marry someone through a business contract. Human law doesn't concern me. Constantine stepped closer. The temperature seemed to drop. The contract was witnessed by older powers, powers that existed before your courts, before your laws. Elena's back hit the wall. What are you talking about? Constantine smiled. His teeth were very white, too white, and his canines were slightly longer than they should be. I am what your grandmother's stories warned you about. He reached out and touched the scar along her jaw. His fingers were ice cold. I am 847 years old. I have not seen sunlight in centuries. And you, Elena Vasile, are bound to me by blood and oath. The room tilted. Elena's knees buckled. Constantine caught her before she fell. His arms were strong, impossibly strong. He lifted her like she weighed nothing. "This cannot be real," Elena whispered. "I overheard your humiliation tonight at the Savoy." Constantine carried her to the leather sofa in her office. "Adrian Popescu will not trouble you again. As my wife, you are under my protection." "I don't want protection." Elena tried to pull away. Pride burned in her chest. "I want to succeed on my own." "Then we have a problem." Constantine set her down gently. "Because the contract cannot be broken, and I have enemies who will use you to destroy me." Elena paced the length of her gallery, her bare feet silent against the polished floor. Constantine remained by the desk, watching her with those unsettling silver-gray eyes. The contract lay between them like a grenade with the pin pulled. "Let me understand this clearly," she said, stopping to face him. "You claim we're married, bound by some ancient agreement I don't remember making. The binding is complete whether you remember or not." Constantine's voice carried centuries of certainty. "6 months ago, you needed money desperately. Your gallery was 3 weeks from foreclosure, your father's entire legacy about to vanish." Elena's jaw tightened. He was right about the timing. She'd been frantic then, signing papers for every possible investor, but she would have noticed a marriage contract, wouldn't she? "Even if this document is real," she said carefully, "no one else knows about it. I could simply refuse to acknowledge it." "You could try." Constantine moved toward the window, his reflection oddly faint in the glass. "But Adrian Popescu has already damaged your reputation. Your major donors are abandoning you. How long before the gallery closes anyway?" The words hit like physical blows. Elena wrapped her arms around herself, feeling suddenly cold. "What are you suggesting?" Constantine turned to face her. "We maintain the arrangement publicly. You gain financial security and social standing as my wife. Your gallery thrives. Your ex-boyfriend watches you rise beyond his reach." "And what do you gain?" Elena asked. "Men like you don't offer charity." A thin smile crossed Constantine's face, revealing teeth that seemed slightly too sharp. "Protection. My enemies will think twice before moving against me if I have a wife, someone they believe I care about." "Someone they'd target to hurt you," Elena said, understanding flooding through her. "You want to use me as bait. I want to use you as a shield." Constantine's expression remained calm. "There's a difference. My presence protects you from ordinary threats. Your presence complicates the calculations of extraordinary ones." Elena's mind raced through the implications. Adrian had humiliated her tonight, made her look desperate and unstable. But appearing as Constantine's wife would reverse everything. She'd have the money to save the gallery, the social position to rebuild her reputation. The cost would be living a lie, pretending to be married to this strange, dangerous man. "How long would this charade last?" she asked. "Until it no longer serves us both." Constantine stepped closer, his pale hands clasped behind his back. "I require a wife for certain social obligations. You require financial stability and restored reputation. A simple transaction." Nothing about this felt simple. Lena studied his face, looking for deception. His features remained perfectly composed, aristocratic and cold, like a marble statue given breath. "There would be rules," she said finally. "Boundaries." "Of course." Constantine inclined his head. "This is a practical arrangement, not a romantic one." Elena thought of Adrian's smug face at the gala, his young wife's pitying expression. The whispers that would follow her now, poor Elena, alone and failing at 30. Or she could walk into the next event on Constantine's arm, watch those same people scramble to curry favor. Her pride screamed warnings. This was exactly the kind of help she'd sworn never to accept. Proof she couldn't succeed alone. But her father's gallery, his legacy, mattered more than her pride. "If we do this," Elena said slowly, "it has to look completely legitimate. No one can suspect this is anything but real." "Agreed." Constantine extended his hand. "Do we have an arrangement?" Elena stared at his pale palm. The thin scars across his knuckles looked old, impossibly old. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She thought of everything she'd lose if she refused, everything she might gain if she accepted. Elena reached out and clasped his hand. His skin felt cool like marble warmed by winter sun. "We have an arrangement," she said. Constantine's fingers tightened around hers. "Then welcome to the family, Mrs. Drăculești." The name sent ice down her spine, but Elena didn't pull away. She'd made her choice. The gallery lights blazed like a stage set. Elena stood at the entrance of her own space, feeling like a stranger at someone else's party. 3 days had passed since Constantine's proposal. 3 days of lawyers, paperwork, and carefully worded press releases. Now the art world would see the result. She smoothed her burgundy dress. The fabric felt expensive against her skin. Constantine had sent it that morning with a note in precise handwriting. "Armor for tonight." "You look nervous." Constantine appeared beside her without sound. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent used to. "I'm not nervous." Elena lifted her chin. "I'm calculating." "Calculating what?" "How many people will believe this?" She gestured between them. "How many will see through it immediately?" Constantine's silver-gray eyes scanned the growing crowd inside. Collectors mingled with critics. Champagne flowed. Her gallery, once nearly empty, now pulsed with life and money. "They'll believe what serves them," he said. "Most people do." A flash went off near the entrance. Photographers had arrived. Elena's stomach tightened. "Ready?" Constantine offered his arm. She took it. His sleeve felt cool under her fingers. They walked into the gallery together. Conversations paused, heads turned. Elena felt every eye track their movement across the polished floor. Elena Vasile, a woman in emerald silk, approached. Margaret Chen, art critic for The London Review. "What a transformation. Your gallery looks magnificent." "Thank you, Margaret." Elena kept her voice steady. "May I introduce Lord Constantin Drăculești?" Margaret's smile sharpened. "Yes, we've all heard the news. Quite the whirlwind romance." Constantine's hands settled at the small of Elena's back. The touch was light but possessive. "Elena has that effect." Margaret's eye flicked between them. "How did you two meet?" Elena opened her mouth, but Constantine spoke first. "She was drowning in paperwork. I offered assistance." Not quite a lie. Elena felt a strange relief at that. "How romantic," Margaret's tone suggested otherwise. "And the timing, right after your difficulties with Adrian Popescu. Pure coincidence, I'm sure." Elena's jaw tightened. "My personal life and professional challenges are separate matters." "Of course." Margaret sipped her champagne. "Though Constantine's investment did save your gallery from foreclosure, one might say he rescued you." Heat flooded Elena's face. Before she could respond, Constantine leaned closer to Margaret. "Elena saved herself," he said quietly. "I merely recognized quality when I saw it." Something in his voice made Margaret step back. She excused herself quickly. Elena exhaled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me." Constantine's hand dropped from her back. "She'll write exactly what she planned regardless." They moved deeper into the gallery. Elena recognized faces from the charity gala. Some nodded politely. Others whispered behind raised glasses. Then she saw Adrian. He stood near the main exhibition wall, his young wife clinging to his arm. His eyes found Elena across the room. "Breathe," Constantine murmured. "He's testing you." "I know what he's doing." Elena forced herself to look away. "He wants to see me break." "Will you?" "No." Constantine's mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. "Good." They circulated through the crowd. Elena discussed paintings, answered questions about upcoming exhibitions, played the role of successful gallery owner. Constantine stayed close, but not smothering. He spoke little, but his presence shifted the room's energy. People treated her differently now, with respect, with caution. Elena wasn't sure how she felt about that. Near midnight, a woman entered the gallery. She moved like water through the crowd, graceful and inevitable. Her dress was black silk. Her hair fell in dark waves past her shoulders. Constantine went very still beside Elena. "Who is that?" Elena asked. "Trouble." The woman approached them directly. Her eyes, an unusual violet shade, fixed on Elena with predatory interest. Constantine. Her voice carried an accent Elena couldn't place. How unexpected to find you here. Elena Corvinus. Constantine's tone held warning. This is a private event. Elena Corvinus. The same first name. Elena felt a chill despite the crowded room's warmth. I received an invitation. The other Elena produced a cream envelope. From an anonymous admirer, I assume. She turned to Elena Vasile. You must be the new wife. How charming. Elena met her gaze. And you must be someone Constantine hoped wouldn't attend. Elena Corvinus laughed. The sound was beautiful and cold. Oh, I like her. She has spine. Leave. Constantine moved slightly in front of Elena. You're not welcome. Not welcome at a public gallery opening? Elena Corvinus tilted her head. How rude. I only wanted to meet the woman who captured your interest. She seems so fragile. The word hung between them like a blade. Elena stepped around Constantine. I'm standing right here. If you have something to say it to my face. Elena Corvinus' smile widened. Brave words. I wonder if you'll keep that courage when you understand what you've married into. She leaned closer. Her breath smelled like winter. Constantine collects beautiful things, but he breaks them eventually. It's his nature. Then she was gone, flowing back through the crowd and out into the London night. Lena's hands trembled. She clasped them together. Who was she? She asked quietly. Constantine's expression was carved from stone. Someone from my past. Someone who wants to see me fail. By threatening me? Yes. Elena looked around the gallery. The crowd continued drinking, talking, admiring art. No one had noticed the encounter. This is what you meant, she said, about becoming bait. Constantine nodded. I'm sorry. Don't be. Elena straightened her shoulders. Pride steadied her voice. I knew the terms. I chose this. But as the night wore on, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just been measured for a coffin. The gallery closed at midnight. Elena locked the front door and turned to find Constantine standing motionless in the shadows. We need to leave, he said. His silver-gray eyes held an urgency she hadn't seen before. Now. Elena's hand tightened on her keys. What's wrong? The council has summoned us. Constantine moved toward her with that predatory grace that still made her pulse quicken. They want to verify our marriage. The word marriage still felt strange in her mouth. They'd maintained the charade publicly for 2 weeks now. Photographers, interviews, carefully staged moments of affection. But this was different. What council? Elena asked. The vampire court that governs supernatural law. Constantine's jaw tightened. They meet beneath Edinburgh Castle. We have until dawn to present ourselves. Elena felt cold fear settle in her stomach. And if we don't go? They'll consider the contract void. Your protection ends. He paused. And they'll investigate why I attempted to deceive them. The unspoken threat hung between them. Constantine's enemies would know that she was vulnerable. Fair game. How do we get to Edinburgh by dawn? Elena glanced at her watch. 3 hours at most. Trust me. Constantine extended his hand. Elena hesitated. Her pride whispered that she should refuse, should handle this herself somehow. But practicality won. She took his hand. The world blurred. When her vision cleared, they stood in a stone chamber lit by torches. The air smelled of centuries, damp rock and old blood. Elena's stomach lurched from the impossible journey. You could have warned me, she said. You would have argued. Constantine's hand remained on her elbow, steadying her. Can you stand? Elena pulled away from his support. I'm fine. A door opened across the chamber. A figure emerged, a woman with pale skin and eyes like black glass. She wore a simple gray dress that might have been fashionable in any century. Lord Drăculești. The woman's voice echoed off stone walls. The council awaits. Constantine inclined his head. Mihai said they would convene quickly. So his chamberlain had warned him. Elena filed that information away. They followed the woman through narrow passages that descended deeper into the earth. The torchlight cast dancing shadows on walls marked with symbols Elena didn't recognize. Ancient languages, perhaps. Or warnings. The passage opened into a vast circular chamber. 7 thrones carved from black stone ringed the space. 6 were occupied. Elena's breath caught. The figures on the thrones looked human at first glance, but their stillness was wrong. Too perfect, like statues that might suddenly move. Lord Constantin Drăculești. The voice came from the central throne, a man with silver hair and eyes like winter ice. You claim to have taken a human wife. I have fulfilled the contract requirements, Constantin said. His tone remained neutral, but Elena felt tension in his stance beside her. Show us the woman. Constantine's hand pressed against Elena's lower back, guiding her forward. She forced herself to walk steadily, to meet those ancient eyes without flinching. Elena Vasile, the silver-haired vampire said, you signed a marriage contract with Lord Drăculești 6 months ago? I signed documents, Elena said carefully. I was told they were financial agreements. Murmurs rippled through the council. One throne-sitter leaned forward, a woman with dark amber eyes like Elena's own, but older, infinitely older. You claim ignorance? The woman's voice held amusement. How convenient. Elena's jaw tightened. I claim I was deceived. Yet you stand here beside him. The woman gestured at Constantine, playing the devoted wife for London society. Which is the deception, I wonder? The question struck like a blade. Elena felt heat rise in her cheeks. The contract is binding regardless of her initial understanding, Constantine said. The terms have been met. Have they? The silver-haired leader stood. He moved down from his throne with fluid grace. Marriage under our law requires more than signatures and public appearances. He stopped directly before Elena. This close, she could see the pale scars on his hands. Battle wounds from centuries past. It requires blood, he said. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. What does that mean? It means we test whether you can survive in our world. The vampire smiled, revealing fangs. Whether you're worthy of the protection Lord Drăculești's name provides. Constantine moved closer to Elena. That wasn't part of the original terms. The terms have changed. The woman with dark amber eyes rose from her throne. Your marriage disrupts the balance of power, Lord Drăculești. We have the right to verify its legitimacy. Elena understood then. This wasn't about paperwork or legal requirements. This was about Constantine's enemies testing for weakness. Testing her. What kind of test? Elena asked. Her voice came out steady despite the fear coursing through her. The silver-haired vampire's smile widened. Survive until dawn in the hunting grounds beneath the castle. If you live, the marriage stands. No, Constantine said flatly. Then the contract is void. The vampire turned away. And Miss Vasile becomes available. The word hung in the air like a threat. Elena's mind raced. Going into those tunnels meant facing God knew what. But refusing meant losing everything. Her gallery, her protection, possibly her life. She thought of Adrian's cruel smile at the charity gala, of Margaret Chen's skeptical questions at the gallery opening, of every person who'd ever doubted she could stand on her own. I'll do it, Elena said. Constantine's hand gripped her arm. Elena, I signed the contract. She met his silver-gray eyes. I'll prove it's real. The council chamber felt like a tomb closing around her. Elena stood perfectly still, her shoulders back, despite the weight of 7 ancient gazes pressing against her skin. The silver-haired leader, Constantin had called him Cassius, leaned forward on his stone throne. You claim this marriage is genuine, Cassius said. His voice echoed off the curved walls. Yet you have been seen together for only 2 weeks. Love doesn't follow a schedule, Constantine replied smoothly. Elena's stomach twisted. The lie tasted sour in her mouth, but she forced herself to meet Cassius's eyes. Pride had always been her armor. She wouldn't let it crack now. Then you won't mind proving it. Cassius gestured to a woman seated at his right. She wore robes that seemed woven from the shadows. Ileana will verify your bond. The name sent ice down Elena's spine. Constantine had mentioned Ileana once, the witch who had cursed him centuries ago, the woman who had bound him with pain whenever he felt genuine emotion. Ileana rose from her seat. She moved like smoke, drifting down the stone steps. Her face remained hidden beneath her hood, but Elena felt the weight of her attention like cold fingers trailing across her throat. "This will hurt," Ileana said. Her voice sounded like wind through dead leaves. Constantine's hand tightened on Elena's. She felt his fingers trembling, or was that her own hand shaking? Ileana raised one pale hand. Words spilled from her lips in a language Elena didn't recognize. The air grew thick and heavy, pressing against Elena's chest until each breath became work. Then pain exploded behind her eyes. Images flooded her mind, not her memories, but Constantine's. She saw centuries flash past, battlefields soaked in blood, ballrooms lit by candlelight, faces that blurred together until they meant nothing. And underneath it all, a constant ache that never faded. The curse. She could feel it now, wrapped around Constantine's heart like barbed wire. Every moment of joy brought agony. Every flash of genuine feeling became torture. She gasped and pulled away. The connection snapped. Her vision cleared slowly, the chamber swimming back into focus. "Interesting," Ileana said. She lowered her hand. "The bond exists, but it is young, fragile." "All new marriages are fragile," Constantine said. His voice remained steady, but Elena noticed the tension in his jaw. "We are still learning each other." Cassius studied them for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, the contract stands. For now." The dismissal was clear. Constantine bowed slightly, then guided Elena toward the chamber's exit. She walked on unsteady legs, grateful for his hand at her elbow. They emerged into a narrow corridor, stone walls pressed close on either side. Elena leaned against the cold rock, trying to steady her breathing. "That was too close," she whispered. "Agreed." Constantine's face looked drawn. Ileana sensed something. She always does. Elena wanted to ask about the curse, about the pain she'd felt echoing through his memories. But her phone buzzed in her pocket, shattering the moment. She pulled it out. Adrian's name glowed on the screen. Her finger hovered over the decline button. Then she answered. "What do you want?" "Elena," Adrian's voice dripped false concern. "I heard you've gotten involved with some questionable people. Constantin Drăculești has quite the reputation." "My relationships are none of your business." "They are when they affect my reputation." Adrian's tone sharpened. "People are talking, saying your new husband has connections to organized crime, money laundering, worse things." Elena's chest tightened. "That's ridiculous." "Is it? Because I've been doing research, and I'm prepared to go public with what I've found unless—" There it was, the trap closing around her ankle. "Unless what?" she asked through clenched teeth. "Unless you give me £50,000, call it a loan, or call it the price of my silence." Elena's free hand curled into a fist. Her nails bit into her palm. "That's blackmail. That's business. You have 48 hours. The call ended. Elena stared at her phone, watching the screen fade to black. Constantine touched her shoulder. "What happened?" She wanted to handle this alone. Pride demanded she solve her own problems without asking for help. But the walls were closing in from both sides now. The vampire world and the human world colliding with her, trapped between them. "Adrian found something," she said quietly. "About you. About your activities. He's threatening to expose everything unless I pay him." Constantine's expression didn't change, but she saw something flicker in his silver-gray eyes. Calculation. Danger. "Then we have a new problem," he said. "One that requires a different kind of solution." Elena looked up at him. "What kind of solution?" "The kind that involves making Adrian disappear from your life. Permanently." The word hung between them like a blade. Elena knew she should be horrified, but part of her, the part that was tired of being hurt, tired of being manipulated, wanted to say yes. Instead, she pulled away from the wall. "No, I need to handle this myself. I just need information. Protection. Someone who understands both worlds." "You need a witch," Constantine said. Elena nodded slowly. "Can you find one who isn't bound to destroy you?" For the first time, Constantine smiled. It looked almost genuine. "I know exactly who to call." The grand ballroom glittered like the inside of a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors. Elena's reflection caught in a dozen mirrors. She wore a midnight blue gown that Constantine's staff had delivered to her townhouse with a note, "For tonight, trust no one." She hadn't expected to attend another vampire gathering so soon after the council's test. Her head still ached from Ileana's magical probe, but Constantine had insisted this event was different. The Immortal Ball happens only once per decade, he'd explained in the car. Every major vampire bloodline will be represented. If we don't attend, they'll assume we're hiding. Aren't we? Elena had asked. His silver gray eyes had met hers. Yes, but they mustn't know that. Now she stood at the entrance to the ballroom, her hand resting lightly on Constantine's arm. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her monthly gallery rent. Together they looked like they belonged in this world of immortal predators dressed in designer clothing. "Smile," Constantine murmured. "You're supposed to be enjoying yourself." Elena forced her lips to curve upward. Around them, conversations paused. Heads turned. She recognized some faces from the council chamber. Ancient beings who'd watched Ileana's verification spell tear through her mind. A woman in a crimson gown approached. Her dark hair was piled high, secured with diamond pins. "Lord Drăculești, how unexpected to see you here with your bride." The pause before bride carried volumes of skepticism. "Lady Corvinus." Constantine inclined his head. "May I present Elena Vasile, my wife?" The word still felt strange. Elena extended her hand. "A pleasure." Lady Corvinus's grip was cold as ice. "I'm sure it is. Tell me, Mrs. Drăculești, how does a human gallery owner find herself married to one of the oldest bloodlines in Europe?" "Love works in mysterious ways," Elena said smoothly. "Indeed." Lady Corvinus's smile showed teeth too white, too sharp. "How very convenient for you both." She glided away, leaving a trail of expensive perfume. "That went well," Elena muttered. Constantine's jaw tightened. It's only beginning. He was right. As they moved through the ballroom, Elena felt eyes tracking their every movement. Whispers followed like shadows. She caught fragments of conversation. Marriage contract, council verification, suspicious timing. They knew, or at least suspected. A quartet played something classical in the corner. Couples danced with inhuman grace. Elena watched a man spin his partner so fast her gown became a blur of emerald silk. No human could move like that. "Constantine," a new voice, male and familiar. Elena turned, her breath caught. Adrian Popescu stood 3 feet away, holding a champagne flute. Her ex-boyfriend looked exactly as she remembered. Sandy hair, confident smile, expensive watch. But his eyes held something new, something predatory. "Adrian?" Her voice came out strangled. "What are you doing here?" "The same thing as you, apparently." He took a sip of champagne, attending the social event of the decade. Constantine stepped forward, placing himself slightly between them. "You weren't on the guest list." "No." Adrian's smile widened. "Perhaps you should check again. I've recently come under the patronage of Lady Corvinus. She thought I might have valuable information to share." Elena's stomach dropped. "What information?" "About you, my dear." Adrian's gaze swept over her. "About your financial troubles 6 months ago. About how desperate you were when your gallery faced foreclosure. About the loan documents you signed without reading them carefully." The room suddenly felt too hot, too small. "I remember thinking at the time," Adrian continued, "that you'd do anything to save your father's legacy. Anything at all. Even sign contracts you didn't understand." Constantine's hand found Elena's elbow. His grip was gentle but firm. "This conversation is over." "Is it?" Adrian stepped closer. "Because I think the assembled guests would find it fascinating to hear how your marriage began as a business transaction. How Elena had no idea what she was signing. How your entire relationship is built on—" "Careful." Constantine's voice dropped to a whisper. "You're making accusations you can't prove." "Can't I?" Adrian pulled a folded paper from his jacket pocket. "I kept copies of all Elena's financial documents from when we were together, including preliminary loan agreements she reviewed but ultimately rejected. Funny how similar they look to marriage contracts, isn't it? Almost like someone might have substituted one for the other." Elena's vision blurred at the edges. She'd reviewed loan documents with Adrian 6 months ago. He'd offered to help her find financing. She'd refused his assistance, not wanting to owe him anything after their bitter breakup. But what if he'd kept those documents? What if he was about to prove their marriage was a fraud in front of every major vampire bloodline? You have no right, she managed. I have every right. Adrian's expression hardened. You humiliated me when you chose your precious gallery over our relationship. Now everyone will see you for what you really are, a desperate woman who sold herself for money. The music stopped. Conversations died. The entire ballroom had fallen silent, every immortal ear tuned to their confrontation. Lady Corvinus materialized beside Adrian. Such serious allegations. Perhaps Lord Drăculești would care to respond. Constantine's hand trembled against Elena's elbow. The curse, she realized. He was feeling something. Anger, fear, protectiveness, and it was causing him pain. She had to act. Now, before he collapsed, before Adrian exposed them both. Elena stepped forward, pulling free of Constantine's grip. Her voice rang clear across the marble floor. You want to challenge my husband's right to rule his bloodline, then issue a formal challenge, here, now in front of witnesses. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Constantine's silver-gray eyes widened. Elena, unless, she continued, staring directly at Adrian, you're too much of a coward to back up your accusations with action. The trap was set, and she had no idea if it would save them or destroy them both. Adrian's smile had changed. His teeth were too white, too sharp. Elena's stomach tightened as she recognized what she was seeing. You look surprised, Elena. Adrian stepped closer. The expensive watch on his wrist caught the light. Did you think Constantine was the only one who could offer immortality? Constantine moved between them. His hand found Elena's elbow. When? 3 weeks ago. Adrian's dark eyes gleamed. Lady Corvinus was very generous. She thought I might be useful. The name hit Elena like cold water. The vampire who had questioned their marriage at the ball, the one who had looked at Elena like she was prey. Useful how? Constantine's voice was soft. Dangerous. Adrian's gaze shifted to Elena. Your wife signed a contract 6 months ago, but she doesn't remember it. That's interesting, isn't it? Makes people wonder what else she might have forgotten, or what else might have been arranged. Elena's headache flared. The lingering pain from Ileana's magical probe felt like needles behind her eyes. You're lying. Am I? Adrian tilted his head. The gesture was wrong, too fluid. Lady Corvinus thinks the council should investigate more thoroughly. She thinks maybe Constantine used compulsion on you, made you sign things, made you forget. The accusation hung in the air. Around them, other vampires had stopped dancing. They were watching now, listening. Constantine's grip on Elena's elbow tightened. She felt the tremor in his fingers. The curse, she realized. He was feeling something, anger, fear, and it was hurting him. The council already verified our bond. Constantine's voice remained steady despite the pain she knew he was experiencing. They verified something young and fragile. Adrian's smile widened. Ileana's exact words. What if it's young because Constantine only recently compelled you? What if the real Elena Vasile would never have agreed to marry a monster? Elena's chest constricted. The doubt Adrian was planting wasn't just for the watching vampires, it was for her. She had no memory of signing the contract. What if Constantine had manipulated her mind? But then she remembered the probe. Ileana's magic forcing her into Constantine's memories. She had felt his centuries of loneliness, his desperate attempts to break the curse, his careful isolation to avoid the pain that came with genuine connection. If he had compelled her, she would have felt that too. No. Elena pulled away from Constantine's protective grip. She stepped toward Adrian. You're the one who humiliated me at the charity gala. You're the one who told everyone I was unstable. Now you show up here turned into a vampire by someone who wants to destroy my marriage. And I'm supposed to believe you're concerned about my well-being? Adrian's expression flickered. Something like his old smugness returned. I'm trying to save you from making a terrible mistake. You're trying to save yourself. Elena's voice rang clear across the ballroom. Lady Corvinus turned you because she needed a weapon against Constantine. Someone who knew me. Someone who could make me doubt myself. She turned to face the watching crowd, her heart hammered against her ribs. This was a terrible risk, but Adrian's accusation had backed them into a corner. You all want to know if my marriage is real? Lena's hands were shaking. She clasped them together. The council verified it. Ileana herself confirmed our bond exists. Yes, it's young. Yes, it's fragile. That's what happens when two people are just beginning. Lady Corvinus emerged from the crowd. She was tall, elegant, with silver hair piled high. How convenient that you remember your feelings now, but not the contract signing. I remember choosing Constantine. Elena met the vampire's cold gaze. I remember deciding that saving my father's gallery was worth the risk. I remember signing my name. What I don't remember is the magical binding that came with it, because I'm human. I don't feel magic the way you do. It was a gamble. She was guessing that the contract had included some kind of spell, something that would explain her memory gap without making Constantine look guilty. Constantine moved beside her. His face was pale. The curse was still hurting him, but he didn't contradict her. The binding was necessary. Ileana's voice cut through the murmurs. The witch stood at the edge of the crowd, her dark eyes fixed on Elena. A marriage contract between human and vampire requires magical sealing. The human never remembers that part. The magic is too foreign to mortal minds. Elena's knees felt weak. She had guessed right. Lady Corvinus's expression hardened. That doesn't prove genuine feeling. No, Ileana moved closer. Her gaze shifted between Elena and Constantine. But I felt something when I tested them. Something neither expected. The bond may be young, but it's growing, changing, becoming something neither of them planned for. The words settled over Elena like a heavy cloak. She looked at Constantine. His silver gray eyes met hers. She saw the question there, the same one forming in her own mind. What if the fake marriage was becoming real? Adrian made a disgusted sound. This is ridiculous. She's being manipulated. You're dismissed. Constantine's voice carried absolute authority. Tell Lady Corvinus her attempt failed. My wife and I are leaving. He offered Elena his arm. She took it. Her hand trembled against his sleeve. They walked through the silent crowd. Every vampire watched them pass. Elena kept her spine straight, her chin high, the way her father had taught her when presenting art to skeptical critics. Never let them see you doubt yourself. But as they reached the ballroom doors, Elena felt the weight of what had just happened. She had publicly defended a marriage she didn't fully understand. She had claimed feelings she wasn't sure existed. And Ileana's words echoed in her mind, becoming something neither of them planned for. The doors closed behind them. Constantine released her arm immediately. He leaned against the wall. His breathing was harsh. The curse? Elena asked quietly. He nodded. His jaw was clenched tight. She had caused this. Her words in the ballroom, her defense of their marriage, it had made him feel something. And that feeling was tearing him apart from the inside. I'm sorry, she whispered. Constantine's eyes opened. He looked at her with an expression she couldn't read. Don't be. You saved us both tonight. But at what cost, Elena wondered. And what happened now that they had claimed their fake marriage might be becoming real? The ballroom fell silent. Every vampire present turned toward the commotion at the center of the hall. Elena stood between Constantine and Adrian. Her dark amber eyes moved from one man to the other. The headache from Ileana's probe still pulsed behind her temples, but she forced herself to focus. Enough, she said. Her voice cut through the whispers. Both of you. Adrian's new vampire eyes gleamed with something she didn't recognize. 3 weeks ago, he'd been human. Now he moved with the same predatory grace as Constantine. Lady Corvinus had changed him. The question was why. Constantine's hand remained at his side. She saw the tension in his jaw. The curse was hurting him. Every emotion he felt became physical pain, anger, fear, concern. All of it turned to agony inside him. Elena, Adrian stepped closer. You don't remember signing the contract. Doesn't that tell you something? It tells me I made a choice 6 months ago. She met his gaze steadily. Whether I remember it or not. The Vampire Council members watched from their elevated platform. The silver-haired leader leaned forward slightly. Ileana stood beside him, her ancient eyes calculating. Lady Corvinus turned you 3 weeks ago, Elena said to Adrian. You've been vampire for less than a month. But you stand here accusing a lord who's walked this earth for 8 centuries. Murmurs rippled through the gathered vampires. Adrian's confident expression flickered. I'm trying to protect you, he insisted. No, Elena shook her head. You're trying to protect yourself. Constantine's silver-gray eyes widened slightly. She saw surprise there, and something else, something that made the curse tighten around him like invisible chains. Lady Corvinus offered you immortality, Elena continued, addressing Adrian. But immortality comes with a price in this world. You owe her now. She owns you. Adrian's face hardened. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. Elena turned to face the assembled vampires. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her voice steady. Lady Corvinus questions Constantine's marriage because it threatens her political position. If his union with me is legitimate, it changes the power structure in this court. The silver-haired council leader stood. Bold words, Mrs. Drăculești. The title sent a chill down her spine. She was human, mortal. These beings could kill her with a thought. But she'd learned something in Ileana's magical probe. She'd felt Constantine's memories, his centuries of existence. She'd seen how vampire politics worked. My husband has no allies in this court, Elena said. He's stood alone for decades because of his curse. Because feeling emotion causes him pain, other vampires think him weak, cold. Constantine's hand found hers. His fingers were ice against her skin. She felt him trembling, not from fear, but from the curse's punishment for caring what happened to her. But I felt his emotions, Elena continued. Ileana's probe showed me everything. He couldn't have compelled me. The curse won't let him feel strongly enough about anyone to bother. Ileana's lips curved into something almost like a smile. Yet here he stands, Elena said, in agony because he's afraid for me, sir, because Adrian's accusation might destroy our marriage and leave me vulnerable. That's not compulsion. That's not manipulation. She stopped. The word hung unspoken between them. Love. But saying it would make it real, and making it real would hurt Constantine even more. The council leader descended from his platform. He moved through the crowd like smoke, appearing suddenly before them. His ancient eyes studied Elena's face. You defend him knowing what he is, the leader said. Knowing the curse makes him incapable of the very emotion you describe. The curse makes it painful, Elena corrected, not impossible. Constantine's hand tightened around hers. She heard his sharp intake of breath. The curse was crushing him now. Every moment he stood here, caring about her fate, the ancient magic punished him. I've made my choice, Elena said. 6 months ago and again tonight. My marriage stands. Adrian stepped forward. Elena, please. You humiliated me at the charity gala, Elena said quietly. You questioned my stability in front of everyone I knew. You wanted me broken and desperate. Well, I was, and I made a choice to save myself. She turned to Constantine. His pale face was drawn with pain, but his silver-gray eyes met hers steadily. I chose this, she said. I choose this. The council leader watched them for a long moment. Then he looked at Adrian. Lady Corvinus's pawn has failed, the leader announced. The marriage stands. This matter is closed. Adrian's face went white. He looked around desperately, but Lady Corvinus had already disappeared from the ballroom. She'd abandoned him the moment her plan collapsed. The crowd began to disperse. Conversations resumed. The crisis had passed. But Elena felt Constantine's hand still trembling in hers. The curse hadn't released him. It wouldn't, not while he felt this strongly. We need to leave, she whispered. Now. He nodded once. They moved toward the exit together, leaving Adrian standing alone in the center of the ballroom, newly immortal, newly abandoned, and utterly powerless. 6 months had passed since the Immortal Ball. Elena stood in the center of her expanded gallery, watching workers hang the final pieces for tomorrow's opening. The new wing stretched behind her, twice the size of her father's original space. She had named it the Vasile-Drăculești Gallery. both names together, as they should be. The lighting needs adjustment on the Caravaggio, Constantine said from across the room. He moved between the paintings with careful attention, his silver-gray eyes catching details she would have missed. Elena smiled. You've said that 3 times. The lighting is perfect. Perfection requires vigilance. But his mouth curved slightly, and she saw him wince. The curse still punished him for feeling anything genuine. 6 months of marriage, or a marriage, a real marriage now, not a charade. And the pain hadn't lessened. If anything, it had grown worse as his emotions deepened. You should rest, Elena said. Mihai can finish the preparations. I'm fine. Constantine's jaw tightened. He was lying, and they both knew it. The gallery's front door opened. Mihai entered carrying a wooden crate marked with symbols Elena had learned to recognize. Vampire artifacts, acquired through Constantine's connections. Items that museums would never see, that human collectors didn't know existed. This was her new world. Art that bridged both lives. Where do you want this? Mihai asked. His loyalty to Constantine had extended to her over these months. He treated her with the same careful respect he showed his master. The climate-controlled room, Elena said, next to the Byzantine collection. Mihai nodded and disappeared into the back. Elena heard his footsteps descending the stairs to the basement level, where temperature and humidity stayed constant, where the most valuable pieces waited in darkness. Constantine appeared beside it, but he moved so quietly now that she barely noticed. Or perhaps she had simply grown accustomed to his presence. Are you certain about tomorrow? He asked, inviting both communities. Human collectors and vampire patrons, Elena said. Yes, I'm certain. It's a risk. Everything worthwhile is a risk. She turned to face him. You taught me that. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. The touch still sent warmth through her chest, still made her breath catch slightly. 6 months, and the feeling hadn't faded. Lady Corvinus will attend, Constantine said quietly. She accepted the invitation. Elena had expected that. The vampire noblewoman had withdrawn her political challenge after the Immortal Ball, but she hadn't forgotten. Enemies like her never did. Let her come, Elena said. Let her see what we've built. The gallery represented something new, a space where both worlds could exist openly, where vampire art could be displayed without pretense, where human collectors could glimpse the supernatural without understanding its full truth. It was dangerous. It was unprecedented. It was exactly what she wanted. Adrian sent regrets, Constantine added. He won't be attending. Elena felt a small relief. Her ex-boyfriend had struggled with his transformation. Being owned by Lady Corvinus had broken something in him. She had seen him once, 3 months ago, and barely recognized the bitter creature he had become. Some people weren't meant for immortality. The council approved the gallery's charter, Constantine said. Officially, you're recognized as a cultural liaison between communities. A fancy title for someone who hangs paintings. But Elena felt pride nonetheless. The Vampire Council's recognition meant protection, legitimacy, acceptance. It meant she had proven herself on her own terms. You've done more than hang paintings, Constantine said. His voice carried warmth that made him flinch. You've created something that will outlast centuries. We've created it, Elena corrected, together. She squeezed his hand. He squeezed back, despite the pain it caused him. The curse remained. Ileana had offered no solution, no path to breaking it. Constantine would suffer for every genuine emotion he felt for as long as he existed. And yet he chose to feel them anyway. That was love, Elena had learned. Not the absence of pain, but the willingness to endure it. I should check the security arrangements, Constantine said. Some of tomorrow's guests will be particular about privacy. Go, Elena released his hand. I'll finish here. He hesitated, then leaned down and kissed her forehead. Quick, gentle, and followed by a sharp intake of breath as the curse bit into him. Then he was gone, moving through the gallery toward the security office. Elena turned back to the paintings. Her father's collection hung in the original wing, the pieces he had spent his life acquiring. Human art, beautiful and mortal. The new wing held different treasures. A portrait painted by a vampire artist in 1347. a sculpture carved by hands that had never felt warmth, a tapestry woven with threads that shimmered in ways human eyes couldn't quite process. Both wings were hers now, both worlds. She had thought 6 months ago that she was choosing between them, her human life or Constantine's immortal world, her independence or his protection. Elena finally understood that she had never needed to choose. The marriage contract she couldn't remember signing had given her something unexpected, not security or wealth, but the freedom to exist in both spaces. To be Elena Vasile, gallery owner and art expert. To be Lady Drăculești, Constantine's wife and political partner. To be herself completely, without compromise. Now she knew why the contract had worked. Not because Constantine had compelled her to sign it, but because some part of her had recognized the opportunity it offered, a chance to expand beyond the limitations she had accepted. For the first time, she saw her father's gallery not as a burden to maintain, but as a foundation to build upon. At last, everything made sense. The missing memory, the convenient timing, the way the contract had protected her even when she didn't understand it. She had saved herself. Constantine had simply provided the means. But then she noticed movement in the gallery's front window. A figure stood outside in the London twilight watching. Not Constantine or Mihai, someone else. The figure raised one hand in a gesture Elena recognized from Constantine's memories, the formal greeting of the Vampire Council. And she realized with sudden cold certainty that tomorrow's opening would be more than a celebration. It would be a test. The council was coming to judge whether a human truly belonged in their world, whether she had earned the right to bridge both lives, or whether she had overreached.